It has been confirmed by Creative Assembly that we can look forward to one more Lord pack for Warhammer 2 before it's wrapped up, and pretty much since the release of The Twisted and the Twilight, speculation has been raging about which races will be involved and who will fill out the Lord slots. There are theories that we might get Beastmen fighting Lizardmen, Beastmen fighting Dwarves, Dwarves fighting Vampires, and Dark Elves fighting everyone else. But which of these theories, amongst many others, could it possibly be? I recently released a speculation video regarding the Warhammer 3 pre-order, in which I tried, and some might say failed, to look at the situation objectively without my personal bias. To some, the video was a good laugh when it came to my conclusions. To others, it was an affront to their entire worldview, while a great many took it for what it was, just a plain old speculation video from yet another Warhammer content creator. That video, however, helped my channel grow more in 2 days than it had in the previous 5 months. So if you watched the video, regardless of how you felt about it, I'd just like to say thank you for taking the time to watch and to comment. Now, how might that video relate to this one? Well, I will be following a similar methodology for determining the races and lords in the upcoming Lord pack. This speculation will be split across a number of videos over the coming week, where we eliminate or elevate different Lord choices. In this first episode, we are purely looking at the races we currently have, so we can determine a list of candidates that have the highest chances of receiving content. So let's get started by defining our criteria that we will test each of the races against. Much like my pre-order speculation video, this may be quite lengthy, but hopefully interesting. So let's get started with our first criteria, and perhaps a contentious one: necessity. Does the race need new content? The community would undoubtedly be split on whether a race can be considered complete, as some will be satisfied with the core content, while others will want the most obscure units and lords from the back page of some White Dwarf article. To keep it simple, we will ask, has the race received their Old World update, or have they been neglected by Creative Assembly, receiving no new content for the past several Lord packs? The second criteria: demand. Is the community even asking for content for the race? Now, while it may be true that a lot of us will purchase the Lord pack regardless of the races and lords involved, how much the race has been asked for by the community as a whole will weigh upon Creative Assembly's decision. Our third criteria: Vortex. As in, is the race represented on the Vortex map? While not the most important point, it would nonetheless be disappointing if we ended Game 2 without all of the races, or at least all of the core races, being represented in the Vortex campaign. As a result, races that are not yet on the map may have a greater chance of being included in the upcoming Lord pack. Fourth, source material. Does the race have enough missing content to even be worthy of a spot in a Lord pack? The pack will need to appeal to the more casual Warhammer fan, and for that, Creative Assembly will need a Lord people are interested in and a big ticket item or two, like a Dread Saurian or an Idol of Gork or Mork. We are going to use 2 sources for this, each race's most recent army book and the Monstrous Arcanum, as these would likely be the first reference materials that Creative Assembly would turn to. Finally, we have additions. Have there been any recent changes in Game 2 that may point to the race receiving new content? So for instance, have there been additional voice lines added for diplomacy, or has the map been modified in some way to include areas the race is known to inhabit? So with our criteria defined, it is time to test our races against them. We have 15 races to consider, which would make for a very lengthy video indeed, so we will separate them into 2 groups, based on the game in which they are introduced. We will then take the top 3 ranking races from each game and pit them against one another. The remainder of this video, though, will compare the Game 1 races against our criteria, while the Game 2 races will be tested in the next video released. So our Game 1 races, in alphabetical order, are the Beastmen, Bretonnia, the Dwarves, the Empire, the Greenskins, the Vampire Counts, the Warriors of Chaos, and the Wood Elves. Let's find out how each of these stack up against our criteria. Our first criteria is necessity. Does the current playable state of the race in the game indicate that it needs an update? We start with the Beastmen, and the simple answer is yes. They are a race that has been shown no love from Creative Assembly since they were first added to the game, many moons ago. And even back then, many were arguing that they were not treated as well as other races. They have become the butt of many a joke, and the source of many memes. Next, we have the chivalrous Bretonnians, who are in pretty good shape. They have 4 lords, with the last being added in the Shadow and Blade DLC. Their campaign has no major issues that need to be addressed before Warhammer 3, and they have a decent roster to play with. The dwarves received their Old World update some time ago, and at that time that put them in a good spot. However, since the greenskins received theirs with the Warden and the Paunch DLC, they have been shown to be in need of a helping hand, and Creative Assembly may want to address this imbalance. So how about the Empire? They have a great roster and some nice mechanics, having received their Old World update with the Hunter and the Beast release. They have no glaring issues that need to be addressed in the short term, though having Volkmar move to a different starting position would be nice. The greenskins received their Old World update when Grom the Paunch made his weighty debut. They are most certainly not in need of an update, as their mechanics are fantastic, and they already have 5 lords with the full roster. We may well see more greenskins in the future, but they are not needed yet. The Vampire Counts also had their Old World update some time ago, and are in a pretty good spot. They could do with some more interesting mechanics, but they have 5 lords already, and a varied roster, and are fun to play. They also don't have any pressing needs that cannot be put off until sometime in Game 3. Next, we have the Warriors of Chaos, who, like the Beastmen, are in need of an update, though with Game 3 just around the corner, and it being utter chaos, will they be chosen to receive an update with the final Lord Pack for Game 2, or will that update be part of Warhammer 3 itself? That leaves us with the Wood Elves, who just received their Old World update with the Twisted and the Twilight Lord Pack, released late last year, so they certainly don't need any new content yet, though hopefully we have not seen the last of them and they show up again in Game 3. So of our list of candidates, the Beastmen and Warriors of Chaos are clearly in need of the most attention, while the Dwarves could do with some help against the Greenskin Tide. On to our second criteria. Is the community asking for new content to be added for the race? While true that there will always be someone wanting content for their favourite race, we will only include those races where the community has been very vocal. So of the Game 1 races, those where I have seen very few requests for content are Bretonnia, the Empire, the Greenskins, the Wood Elves, and the Warriors of Chaos. There is the odd community post or video, but no recognisable push from the community. Now when it comes to the Vampire Counts, there certainly is a more vocal group pushing for their undead to get more content. This is driven by several factors, some of which will be touched on later. The next race where there seems to be a high demand is the Dwarves. There does not seem to be a demand for a single lord, just some additions or changes that will give them better odds against the reworked greenskins. Many seem to feel that the Dwarves were shortchanged in their Old World update and are hoping for something from CA prior to Game 3. That leaves the Beastmen, who have by far the most vocal advocates, and that's totally understandable given how they've been treated. They play great on the battlefield, but are missing some of their core creatures, and their campaign mechanics are just no fun at all. Many have referred to their campaign as a long game of whack-a-mole, and that's pretty accurate. So taking stock, 5 of our races, Bretonnians, Empire, Greenskins, Wood Elves, and Warriors of Chaos, are currently seeing little demand, while 2 more races, the Vampire Counts and Dwarves, are certainly being discussed, leaving the Beastmen as the clear winner of the category. So on to the next criteria, the Vortex. Does the race exist in the Game 2 Vortex campaign? This is a simple criteria as there are no shades of grey, just a simple yes or no. So currently playable in the Vortex campaign, we have Bretonnia, the Empire, the Greenskins, and most recently added, the Wood Elves. That leaves the Beastmen, Dwarves, Vampire Counts, and Warriors of Chaos all out in the cold. So quickly moving on to our fourth criteria, does the race have enough content for a spot in the Lord Pack? As mentioned previously, we will limit ourselves to the race's army book and the monstrous arcanum to answer this question. The Bretonnians are pretty much complete, with no missing lords or units from their most recent edition army book. The Beastmen, however, are the opposite, missing core lords like Gorthor, Taurox the Brass Bull, and Moonclaw. Then they are also missing some of their most iconic beasts, which would certainly help move product: the Jabberslith, the Praeton, and the Gorgon. The Dwarves are missing a number of lords from their army book: Thoric Ironbrow, Grim Burluxon, and Joseph Bugman. Each of these could be a great addition to the Dwarf lineup. Unfortunately, they are not missing any units, and only have the Shard Dragon from the Monstrous Arcanum to draw from. This would be a contentious addition to their roster. The Empire are missing a number of lords and heroes: Kurt Helborg, Ludwig Schwaldheim, Marius Leithorf, and Luther Huss from their 8th edition army book, along with the Master Engineer hero. They're also missing the Celestial Hurricanum and the creatures from the Imperial Zoo. So how about the Greenskins? What is missing from their most recent army book? Well, there's Gorbad Ironclaw, Snotlings, and the Goblin Spearchucker. Not really much to build a lord pack around. Next, we have the Vampire Counts, and a name that has been thrown around a lot is Neferata. But what is missing from the Vampire Counts 8th edition army book? All of the lords are already in the game, as are all of the units. That may not bear well for their undead. Onto the Warriors of Chaos. They are missing the lords Galrag, Valkyr the Bloody, and Vilich the Curseling, along with a few heroes. They're also missing Hellstriders of Slaanesh, Skullcrushers of Khorne, War Shrines, and a few beasts. Now how about our last race, the Wood Elves? They're missing Araloth, and that's about it. Most certainly not enough for a lord pack. So that gives us 3 races with nothing much to offer from their latest army book: the Bretonnians, the Vampire Counts, and the Wood Elves. Another, the Greenskins, just missing a lord choice, and the remaining races, the Beastmen, Dwarves, Empire, and the Warriors of Chaos, having plenty to build a lord pack around. On to our final criteria. Have there been any recent changes that might indicate that a race is about to receive more content? As far as I am aware, the Bretonnians, the Empire, the Dwarves, the Greenskins, the Warriors of Chaos, and the Wood Elves have not received anything that hints at them being in the final Game 2 DLC. That leaves the Beastmen and Vampire Counts having been hinted at in some way by recent changes. For the Beastmen, there were new dialogue lines added. I know it's not much, but perhaps a small sign that they may be on the horizon. In the case of the Vampire Counts, there was the entire addition of several settlements just east of the World's Edge Mountains, which included the Silver Pinnacle, the home of the Queen without a kingdom, Neferata. This is more promising than the Beastmen change, and as such I would assign it more weight. So let's calculate the results for the Game 1 races. Much like my pre-order video, we will assign points based on whether the race passes or fails a criteria. A pass being a score of 1, a fail a score of 0, and if they are borderline, then we will give them half a point. For the first criteria, is there a pressing need for new content? The Beastmen and Warriors of Chaos score 1, as they really need some work done. The Dwarves score half a point, as they could do with some tweaks to buff them against the Greenskins, while Bretonnia, the Empire, the Greenskins, the Vampire Counts, and the Wood Elves all score nothing. Our second criteria, is the community crying out for new content for the race? Well, the Bretonnians, Empire, Greenskins, Wood Elves, and the Warriors of Chaos have their fans, but I have not seen a huge number of requests. As such, they will score 0. The Vampire Counts, the Dwarves, and the Beastmen are being requested quite a lot, so they will each score 1. On to the third criteria. Is the race on the Vortex Campaign map? If yes, the race scores nothing. If no, they score a point. That sees the Bretonnians, the Empire, the Greenskins, and the Wood Elves all score nothing, while the races the Beastmen, Dwarves, Vampire Counts, and Warriors of Chaos each score 1. The fourth criteria, does the race have enough lords and units outstanding to build a lord pack around? We have 3 races that have little to offer: Bretonnians, Vampire Counts, and the Wood Elves, which will score 0 points. We have the Greenskins that score half a point, as they are missing a crucial lord, and the rest the Beastmen, Dwarves, Empire and Warriors of Chaos will all score a point, as they have plenty of missing material. On to the final criteria. What changes have there been recently that might indicate a race is about to get new content for the game? Well, as we saw, the Beastmen and the Vampire counts have both had recent changes, which could be pointing to something. As such, they will each score a point. Everyone else will score nothing. So when we tally up the final results, we have the following. In joint last position with 0 points are Bretonnia and the Wood Elves. No chance of seeing them in the next DLC. Next, with half a point, are the Greenskins, who certainly don't need an update with the way they slap the Dowie around. In 5th spot, there is the Empire, very unlikely to be the final Lord Pack, I would think. Tied for equal 3rd are the Vampire Counts and the Warriors of Chaos, both with a score of 3. In 2nd place, with a score of 3.5, are the Dwarves, having passed most of the criteria, and this leaves in 1st place, the clear leader, the Beastmen, and this bodes well for the Cloven ones. You may have noticed that the results have given us 4 races, 2 of which are tied for 3rd place, the Vampire Counts and the Warriors of Chaos. However, only 3 can move on to the 2nd round, so one has to be eliminated, and that will be the Warriors of Chaos, for the simple reason that we are so close now to Game 3 that it would make little sense for Creative Assembly to take up a spot in a Game 2 Lord Pack to fix them. Any changes they need and new units will come as part of Game 3. So that leaves Beastmen, Dwarves and the Vampire Counts moving on to round 2. We will wrap things up there. I hope you will join me later this week as we look at the Game 2 races using the same set of criteria, and determine which 3 from that game will move on to the next round. Please take some time to check out my other videos, and if you have enjoyed my content, why not subscribe to the channel. A quick shout out as always to Hot Apple Pie for the continued support. It's very much appreciated. And if anyone would like to join him in supporting my content creation, you can find me on Patreon as Grey Tiger Games. I'm Grey Tiger, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.